eastern Illinois. It's the second week in November. It's a real kind of warm, wet morning here. It's rained all day yesterday. We couldn't get in the stand. We got to stand up and didn't even get to hunt yesterday. It never quit raining. It just quit overnight. So everything's kind of dripping this morning, real wet. We're in here right about at daylight. We're going to try to sit all day. Rut action should be pretty good. So stay with us. We'll see what happens here. Big buck, shooter.
Yep.
Wow, what do you say about that? First deer we've seen in Illinois. This is, I think it's November 13th. November 13th. We got here a day and a half ago. Yesterday it rained all day. We had a little gap, about an hour. We got to stand up, the one we're sitting in. Only when we got up it started raining again. It was steady rain all day yesterday. Not even a thought about going out hunting. It rained until probably midnight last night or after. We got in this morning. It's probably, I think it was 47 when I left the truck. It's going to be in the high 50s today. It's dripping wet, just a humid, wet morning. This buck come from behind us in the draw. Like I said, the first deer we saw about 8 o'clock. So I guess I'll take one like this. It's real quick, probably a short hunt, but we'll take them when they come like this. Great deer. I want to go down and take a look at them. Let's go.
Well, we got down to the stand. I know I hit that buck pretty good. He was only about 15 yards. Looks like I double lunged him. We come over the hill here just where he disappeared out of camera range, and he's laying down here on the side hill. Probably only went about 70 yards, and this is a really cool buck. We want to take a look at this one. This is a extremely mature whitetail, I would say. This is what we look for right here. I like this buck a lot. He's got probably 5-inch plus bases. Real heavy mass. He's got a dagger point off above his brow here. He's a 5x4 frame. This is one of those deer. It's not a real high scoring deer, but I could really care less. I don't care what deer score as long as it's a mature animal. This is at least a 4.5-year-old buck. Looking at his mass. Been ripping trees up, obviously. Look at the character of that bark in his horns there. Love this deer. This is a great buck. I'm extremely happy with him. This is our first morning here, and we're in eastern Illinois. It's November 13th. We killed this deer about 8 o'clock this morning. The first deer we've seen on our hunt. We got here a couple days ago. Yesterday it rained all day. We had a slow, steady rain all day. This morning it was dripping. It was warm. It's probably 50-some degrees right now. We were all ready for an all-day sit. Turns out we didn't have to. This buck came through and got him at 8 o'clock. So we got to give a big thanks to our friend Mike Miller, a longtime Muzzy pro staffer. He had us down here to his Illinois property and showed us a spot to go here. We put a stand up in this plateau, and he come up out of the draw from this standing bean or picked bean field just like we thought he would. Neat buck. I'm very happy with him. He'll be a neat head mount there with all that bark in there. That's a cool deer.
You know, it's not very often that the very first deer you see on the very first morning of your hunt is a shooter buck. But that's exactly what happened to Jeff this past year in Illinois. But it was also about having his stand in the perfect spot. And that's the focus of this week's Zooming In.
Zooming In is brought to you by Reconyx, see what you've been missing. And by Nikon, the trusted name in optics.
Jeff's Illinois bow hunt took place in the east central part of the state, just a short distance from the Indiana border. The terrain in this area could best be described as relatively flat and fairly open, with scattered chunks of heavy timber bordered by crop fields. Just prior to his successful hunt, Jeff spent almost an entire day thoroughly scouting this particular area. Now, based on his findings, he knew that a bunch of whitetails were feeding in this cut soybean field right here. He also believed that the majority of those deer were bedding some distance away, in this thick timber here. The morning travel routine for the deer saw them leaving the feeding area sometime before first light. They would cross this stream here, walk along this field edge, and eventually cross this county road right here. The deer would then head into the tip of this patch of cover before crossing this small field and walking into this much larger chunk of timber. Jeff and cameraman Matt Tandy were set up in a large hardwood tree right about here. The tree was situated along a route Jeff figured some of the deer were using as they traveled back to the bedding area. As the footage showed, Jeff first spotted the buck when it walked over a nearby ridge approximately 75 yards away. He let the buck close the distance to a mere 15 yards, which put him right about here. The big whitetail ran only about 50 yards after the hit before tipping over here. Jeff's Illinois bow hunt lasted less than 2 hours. What's more, the buck he shot was the one and only deer that he and Matt saw and filmed. Now, as any serious deer hunter knows, it's not often that things fall into place so perfectly. But man, it is so sweet when it does. Hey, make sure you tune in again next week. I don't know where on earth we'll be zooming in, but I do know that you'll find it informative. We'll see you here.
Zooming In has been brought to you by Reconyx and by Nikon.